Welcome to AI Strategy for Marketers. My name is Neil Wilkins, and this is Cambridge Marketing College. This is a really exciting webinar that we're presenting to you today because this is the very first webinar in the new program at Cambridge Marketing College, which is AI marketing. All of the marketing apprenticeships that are being run as courses and journeys and programs through the college now have an AI version. And this is the very first webinar in the new Circle community that supports those programs. So I'm really delighted to be bringing this one to you. And it's probably a very, very good and sensible place to start, really, because beginning with strategy makes an awful lot of sense, doesn't it, really, when you think about it? Moving, particularly with something like AI, from tools and tactics to some real alignment, some real value, and some potentially really, really impressive outcomes. That's what this session is all about. So I'm going to help you understand how to approach AI strategically, not just from these emerging opportunities that we're seeing coming through. So we're going to focus on where AI genuinely adds value, where it doesn't, and how to align AI use with marketing objectives and wider business outcomes. So this isn't about using the tools. This isn't about creating great content. This is about properly planning where AI strategy fits in to your marketing plans and activities. So why does AI need strategy? Why are just not tools good enough? Well, many organizations currently are adopting AI tactically without really any clarity on the purpose of doing so. And of course, this is ultimately going to lead to very fragmented use of these tools. It's going to mean that people are slightly confused as to when and where and why they should be using them. I mean, we're going to see certainly duplicated effort and probably, because it's not strategic, very limited impact. So you might get some quick wins, but this is not in it for the long haul. Strategy, however, ensures that your AI activities in marketing support outcomes, not just the activity itself. So I'm going to present to you some reflective questions after I make all these statements for you to think about. So the first one here then is, where's AI currently being used in your marketing without a clearly defined purpose? And I'm sure you can come up with some examples that will be very, very bringing this kind of thinking to light. So where's AI currently being used in your marketing without a clearly defined purpose? So, what do we mean by AI strategy in marketing? So, AI strategy isn't a list of tools, a single platform decision, a technology roadmap. What it actually is a very clear view of where AI supports your marketing objectives and your smart goals. And this is basically setting up some guardrails for how and when AI should be used. There are going to be times when AI is absolutely perfect to implement your plans, and other times where it's probably more of a hybrid approach, you and AI working together collaboratively, and then other times where actually AI doesn't really fit. It needs to be you. And so it's about aligning all of those kinds of thinking with business priorities. So, reflective question here then is, if asked, could you explain clearly why your organization is using AI in marketing? There's a question for you. Yeah, that's a proper reflective question because, I mean, if you're anything like me, you will have jumped onto the bandwagon. You will have been doing stuff with AI just to experiment and just to explore. And there's nothing kind of wrong with that, but it has to be to get the best value put into some kind of strategy. Okay, that's really what we're saying here. So, strategic versus tactical AI use. So, tactical use of AI focuses on efficiency. So, that's where we can scale things up, we can reduce cost and time, we can just become more efficient. And strategic AI focuses on advantage. It focuses on delivering value over time. It focuses on getting competitive edge. So that's doing better business and doing better marketing. So examples you could think of: tactical, faster content production. And that's probably one of the early starting points for many people. Example for strategic is improved decision quality and understanding of your customer. So a reflective question for you now would be, is your current AI, the usage of AI, primarily about saving time or improving outcomes? And you have to be honest here. When you're reflecting, this is all about being brutally honest with the answer. Because if it is just one or other, then there's an opportunity to do both. So we're not saying that strategic AI in marketing is just about strategy. There's clearly a lot of tactical benefit too. But this is about dialing up the strategic element of AI within your marketing. So you get best of both worlds, basically. So let's get a bit of a theoretical foundation then before we kind of get going properly into the detail. There's something called the resource-based view, and this is coming into play here big time, okay, when we start thinking about AI strategy in marketing. So the RBV, the resource-based view, suggests that advantage comes from resources that are valuable, they're rare, they're difficult to imitate, and they're organized effectively. Now, if you think about it, AI tools alone are not rare. Everybody's got access to them. But strategic of application of those tools and of AI more generally can be. So the RBV approach says if you can approach the kind of use of AI from a strategic and tactical basis, not just from using tools, then you can get some significant return on investment because you're going to be more valuable. Your work is. It's going to be more rare because it's only going to be you doing it as a brand, as a business, or as a person yourself. It's going to be difficult to imitate because you're going to be doing best in class work. And if you can organize it effectively, then it's able to be replicated and scaled and done again and again and again. So there's a real long term value here. So the question for you would be, what could your organization do with AI that competitors would struggle to replicate? That's an interesting one to think about, isn't it? This is a really, really pivotal moment, I think, for many businesses who can actually take the opportunity to, particularly in commoditized markets where everybody looks and sounds the same. And let's be honest, that is most markets these days. This is an opportunity to differentiate. You can do this better, faster, slicker, more efficiently. There's a lot to win here. So let's start thinking then of AI as a capability, not a feature. From academic research and consultancy insight, which is often where we have to look for seeing, what is really going on here. Competitive advantage comes from capabilities, not technologies. We've all got the technology, but it's our capability of using that technology that gives us the advantage. And capabilities combine people, processes, and tools. So think about that. Are your people skilled? The processes, are they kind of mapped out? Are they kind of really clear? And the tools, are you using the right ones for the right processes and the right things? That's something to think about. So AI will only create value when embedded into how marketing actually works. So just taking a little piece of content and saying, oh, I'm using ChatGPT to improve this content, that is not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is something a lot bigger, a lot more holistic. So, question for you would be which marketing capability would benefit most in your team or your organization from being strengthened with AI based on this ability to get competitive advantage? And then think about it a little bit more broadly here, because of course I keep saying, don't I, that this can be basically in every sphere of your business. I mean, this can go much broader than just purely content creation, where a lot of us began. So key marketing activities, if you're thinking about your broader marketing value chain and integrating AI within this, key marketing activities obviously include things like insight and research, planning and targeting customers, creation and delivery of communication to market, and measurement and optimization, seeing what happened and improving it for the next time. So AI should be assessed against each of these stages: insight and research, planning and targeting, creation and delivery, and measurement and optimization. And of course, it can play significant part at each of those four stages. So a question I would ask you is, at which stage of the marketing value chain is AI most underused currently in your organization? There will come a time where we're all using it and it's going to be, literally omnipresent in all marketing activities. But right now, which stage of the marketing value chain in your organization is AI most underused? It's an interesting question, isn't it, when you stop and actually think about it? Because maybe there is where the competitive advantage comes. Maybe there is where the upskilling, the use of different tools could come into play. So we're kind of taking a few steps backwards with each of these questions and just taking time to pause and reflect on where we are. And if there's a complete gap and you think, oh, well, we don't actually use it at any of those stages, well, then there's your answer. I'm not here to judge and tell you that you're bound to find one. We need to be honest, and this is what this purpose of this particular webinar is all about. So now let's go into kind of the reasons really why we would want to be doing this and really going deep into these questions, because where does AI add most value? Okay, well, I mean, basically, the most sort of consistent research is showing strong value in insight generation and pattern detection. In other words, looking at markets, looking at customer behaviors, looking at sectors, and identifying the insights from those sectors and looking at patterns and trends, because you can look at a snapshot in time, but that doesn't actually give you much of a clue as to, well, is that improving? It's a big number, but is it improving or is it declining? Where's that number going? Where's that opportunity appearing or disappearing? What's the trend of what I'm seeing? AI can really add value there. Predictive analytics and forecasting, incredibly powerful for that. It can do predictions by literally projecting forward in time, turning around, looking back at what you're suggesting you do, and based on its knowledge of everything that's ever happened before, can actually make a pretty accurate forecast or prediction of the likely outcome of your plan, of your campaign, of your project. Personalization at scale, loving this one. This is a really emerging one. And I think over the coming months and certainly years, we're going to see this one really kick up. So, personalization, huge value in taking personalized communication, personalized product and service delivery, personalized follow up, customer support, whatever it happens to be, but personalizing at scale. Each and every individual customer can have some level of personalization. That's incredible. That's the stuff that marketers of old would have just dreamed about, but now it is possible. And of course, performance optimization. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but actually then using AI, embedding AI into everything you do so that it can optimize, and often now in real time, the activities that you're doing. So think now, reflective question for you is, which of these areas would most improve your marketing effectiveness if done better? Insight generation and pattern detection, predictive analytics and forecasting, personalization at scale, or performance optimization? Let's look at these in a little bit more detail. I mean, the insight and decision supporting of AI in all its various guises, really does excel. I mean, this is going to go way beyond anything that a human being could ever do, really. Analyzing large data sets at the speed of light with, pinpoint accuracy, as long as the prompting's right, and identifying correlations and trends that we were talking about before, and supporting but not replacing human judgment. Ultimately, the final decision maker is you, but actually basing your final decision on really profound insights that are coming out from the AI analysis. That's what this is all about. Strategic value really comes from better decisions, not just faster outputs. So think about, where do your marketing decisions currently rely most? And is it on instinct rather than evidence? Because in most organizations, if they're being really, really honest, the answer is, well, we go by gut feel, or no, we've always done it this way, rather than this deeper analysis and insight that AI can power. This will be a real groundbreaker if you've never done this before. This is a real place to start focusing, without any doubt for me. And this whole predictive analytics thing enables you to do predictive thinking within your marketing strategy. I mean, demand forecasting, particularly for product businesses and B2B, that can be a huge one. Customer lifetime value modeling. I mean, that's incredibly powerful to help you identify which segments, which audiences, which personas should we spend most of our valuable resources targeting and supporting. And campaign outcome simulation. I love this one, because the whole predictive idea of being able to run in advance a campaign, see it through end to end, and then kind of almost like from that simulation, make improvements before you launch it. What's not to like about that? So this aligns with the move from really descriptive to predictive marketing maturity. In other words, not just actually saying we're going to do stuff and then waiting till the end to see what happened, but actually predicting in advance the best possible outcome so that we can hit the ground running in a really positive direction. So, what future outcome would you most like marketing to predict more reliably? Is there something you're doing which, if you could predict in advance what the outcome would be, and you could only choose one thing, what would that be? Love that question. I spend a lot of time pondering that one myself as I'm doing plans, both for clients, but also for myself. And this personalization with purpose. I mean, strategic personalization is potentially it's really relevant. It's relevant to the organization, obviously, for feeling like they're putting customer first. But because it's not intrusive and it is really personal by definition, then it means actually there's huge value to the customer too. And it's going to be strategic and it's going to be personalized and appropriate if it's consent based and transparent. In other words, you've got to do this in collaboration with the customer. You can't just assume they're going to want it. They probably will, but you've got to work collaboratively. And again, that's where all these little untapped opportunities for adding more value may lie. And more often they're kind of hiding in plain sight and you don't really see them. But with AI, you can spot these opportunities. And so you can serve customer value, not just conversion. This is much more about enabling at scale this new way of approaching customers, not just in marketing, just to convert them and then maybe keep them happy with a loyalty scheme here or there, but actually serving them with real value through the lifetime of their relationship with you. Reflective question for you. Where does personalization currently add value, and where might it risk overreach in your organization? Well, we're going deep into some of the really, really important stuff. Most of us don't spend enough time doing this. Most of us kind of just carry on doing the day to day. We should be spending more time here. This is the value, see, because if you can create more efficiencies with AI, freeing up more of that kind of time to spend doing this stuff, then you are going to become a more strategic marketer just by doing more AI and getting rid of those things that take up your day. And these are the really pertinent questions. And these are the questions that your competitors are probably not yet answering or asking of themselves. And if they're not, then there's competitive edge to be had if you get in first. It's a win-win here. There really is. But where does AI add less value? Well, I would say, and again, building on those earlier points, low value or high risk AI uses can be things like times when it only adds limited strategic value when it's only used to generate volume. We can do that anyway, can't we? We can just spend a bit more budget and we can create volume. And also when it's applied without quality control, you've got to be overseeing. AI is clever, it's super clever, but it's not as clever as you. And it needs you to steer it. It really does, to prompt it, to brief it, to nurture it, to work with it in collaboration. And of course, if it's deployed without governance, in other words, you haven't set those guardrails, those standards, the ethics, the rules for the AI to operate within, then that can be very damaging to your brand, but also damage the trust because efficiency without direction will damage the trust that your customers have with you. So, which AI uses in your marketing feel busy but not particularly valuable right now? And are you falling foul of some of those points there? Because we've got to be tidying those up as we go and build this AI strategy in marketing. There's another area where AI adds less value, and this is the risk of tool-led strategy. Consultancy research often highlights a common pattern, tool adoption preceding problem definition. In other words, we just get in there starting to use stuff without actually thinking, well, why are we using this tool? Because what is this tool aiming to sort or to resolve or to open up? And also, when strategy is retrofitted afterwards, in other words, it's almost too late because you've started building your bad habits. If you can create the good habits rather, from out of a strategy, that is a much neater, cleaner, purer way of doing things. So this reverses effective strategic thinking. So I would encourage you to think, which AI tool did you adopt before fully defining the problem it was meant to solve? And I bet you can identify one of those. Which AI tool did you adopt before fully defining the problem it was meant to solve? And again, I'm not here to say don't explore and experiment. I want you to be doing that. But it is about not spending too much time trying to embed things for the sake of it because they are shiny and new and exciting. This is about strategy first, it really is. And particularly leading on from that is automation without intention. I mean, AI-driven automation can scale good practice or scale poor decisions. And that's something to remember. If you haven't plotted out your processes, if you don't know the flow of your customers through your business, that customer journey that we call it, and you haven't plotted it out step by step by step, you could, by using AI, just be expanding on the problem, exacerbating the issues that you've already got, making more bottlenecks in that process. So strategic clarity must come before automation. So I would encourage you to think about which automated processes do you have that would benefit most from a strategic review? In other words, which things do you rely on tools and technology for? And you just did them because they were quick wins or they were little fixes to get over a short-term problem and they're still there. That's what we're talking about. It's thinking strategically about stuff that would really benefit from, those improvements which are inevitably going to help you as you look forward. And of course, once we've done that, we've looked to sort of optimize the situation here, then we can start to align AI with our marketing objectives. This was right at the top of this talk, was the thing I said was going to be most important. So effective AI strategy begins with some clear, smart marketing goals. Doesn't everything, really, if you think about it? It begins with defined success metrics. Those KPIs, those performance indicators, they're going to show you you're making progress, hopefully in the right or in the right direction, and agreed priorities. So AI is a means, it's not an objective. That's important. So I'd like you to think just briefly about which marketing objective matters most for your next 12 months, because that's where probably strategically you should be focusing your AI in, because that is where the most value can be gained. That is where most of the attention in the organization, most of the resources, and most of the focus on the results is going to be. So let's just begin where it really can make an impact. And then we can start to map AI to our objectives. So, example alignments could be something like an objective is to improve retention. AI's role there would be churn prediction and life cycle insight. So, this ensures then that AI is investing in the right kind of and supporting the right kind of outcomes. So, which objective do you have that currently lacks the strongest data or insight support? Which kind of objective do you have currently in this year's plans where you think we kind of make it up as we go along, or we haven't actually done really very much research, we've just jumped in, or well, we're just repeating what we did last year? It's going to be one of those, okay? Because those are the ones that you want to get to first, because they're the ones that are leaking the value in your organization and your marketing. And with business outcomes comes strategic AI supporting wider outcomes. Things like revenue predictability, customer experience consistency, risk reduction, resource allocation. I love that one because unless you've got unlimited time, I know I haven't. So, marketing AI should align with these as priorities. These are the things that should be, if anything keeps you awake at night, keeping you awake at night. Revenue predictability, being able to use AI to support these wider outcomes of we've got to grow as a business or we've got to continue to make sales. The customer experience consistency. We can't just make sales to the detriment of our existing customers who need supporting. Risk reduction, that could be a process, that could be new products and service introductions, could be breaking into new markets, it could be keeping your best staff, whatever those things are, AI can help. And resource allocation, making sure that AI takes care of the stuff that you don't need to be doing, freeing you up to do the valuable stuff. I'm going to say this so many times this year. I just know it. I really am. So, which business outcome does marketing most influence or could in your organization? That's the key. Because if you know that, you can then start to think, okay, well, that's where we need to focus some AI strategic thinking in that direction. And as you do that, then the whole governance, ethics, and trust equation comes into play here. AI governance is a strategy enabler. I mean, governance is not a barrier. Most people, when they hear the word governance, think, oh, all that box ticking, oh, more guidelines and regulation. But no, actually, if you use this strategically, it will enable higher levels of trust, confidence, scalability, long-term adoption, people kind of really buying into you for the long haul. Clear rules increase confidence in AI use. So if you're going to be using this AI thing, building it into your plans and into your strategy, you need to put governance, ethics, and trust at the heart of the early decision making. That's so, so key. And it is about keeping it simple. It's not about overthinking it and making things, very, very, legally bound. And no, it's not that at all. It's about clarity and honesty and being really open. So, what guidance currently exists on acceptable AI use in your marketing team right now? Because if you don't have this guidance, if you haven't got AI brand guidelines, if you haven't got tone of voice guidelines for your AI to work with, well, how can you expect, and this is governance, but how can you expect it to behave in a way that really supports you? Often people are now, I'm hearing them say, well, it's governance first. I've got to set these rules in place first before we even get into playing with stuff. Because unless I do that, we could be going off in a whole range of directions. And of course, now hopefully you're realizing, yeah, that is probably true. So thinking about what parameters, what ring fence, what boundary lines, what guardrails, what do I need to set to restrict the freedom that this is opening up? That's a really important one to think about. And it enables you then to really become more ethical and more responsible with your use of AI. Have mentioned these comments before. I mean, transparency, being transparent about how and when you're using AI. It's not a bad thing. Everybody eventually is going to be doing this. So you're just early in the game. Fairness, it's got to be right, hasn't it? There are times when it's fair to be human only. There's times when it's fair to be AI only, and times when it's fair to be collaborative or hybrid. Accountability. Just remember this one: AI is never accountable. Okay, you're accountable. You're the boss. You're in charge of your AIs. They work for you. You might feel that it's a little different to that at times, but that's the truth. So, accountability, the buck stops basically with you. So, own that responsibility. It's yours and cherish it. It's a good thing. And human oversight with everything. I'm very much trusting now of the relationship I have with my ChatGPT called Fern. And she is just incredible at producing the kind of outcomes that, I could only have dreamed of at the speed of light. But I still check. I'm still here to do the sign off. I wouldn't publish something without having worked with her collaboratively on a piece or a blog or piece of content or a plan or something, whatever it happens to be, some strategic thinking. I'm still going to have the overview. I'm still going to be the name on the sheet of paper. I'm still the one ultimately accountable. That's important to remember. So the question for you is, where might AI decisions unintentionally disadvantage your customers or your own audiences if you didn't do these things? Because that is something that we need to plug. If there are some gaps here, some holes, we need to plug those sooner rather than later. It's proper strategic use of AI in marketing. And for some of us, it is, and I think probably it's most of us, if not all of us, it is a real focus on the skills and organizational readiness. So, yeah, your AI strategy for all of us really involves some kind of data literacy. It involves tools and AI literacy and training. It involves critical thinking. Some of it's logical, but some of it is intuitive. Some of it is celebrating the fact that you're a human in this process. And a lot of it is going to be cross-functional collaboration. Tools evolve quickly, but these kinds of capabilities don't. So, this is a longer term commitment to continual learning, to being like a little sponge every day. As you get into your office or log into your computer, you think, what can I learn today? What exciting opportunities are coming for me? And can I share those with the people around me, not just within marketing, but cross functional? Because we're not here in an ivory tower. We need to work together. So, question for you: which skill gap would most limit effective AI adoption in your team right now? Which skill gap would most limit effective AI adoption in your team right here, right now? there's the one to start working on. And again, there's a lot of stuff online that can support you. There's a huge amount of stuff in your communities. There's a huge amount of stuff here in the college that will be able to support you as well. You just have to think, you just have to ask, you just have to start collaborating. The answers are there. And of course, you've got AI to help you, always by your side as well. And as we start to move this kind of strategy into more of an action piece, I've got a very simple little AI strategy framework for you here. And it really is quite simple, really. I mean, strategy remains iterative if you take this approach. Define marketing objectives. Number two, identify decision or capability gaps. Number three, assess AI suitability to plug those gaps. Set governance at point four and boundaries. And then number five, pilot, measure, and refine. This is a strategy that embeds AI at the core. It's not AI first because it's business first, but AI is coming a very close second now. So the question is, and this is an interesting one because, again, we've got to be honest here, which step are you most likely to skip if you're under pressure? Because if you have all the hours that you're given during the day, and let's face it, most of us don't, if you don't have any time pressure to get this thing up and running because there's competitive pressure or pressure from the management team, then again, you're in a very rare situation. Most of us will have pressure. So, which one are you most likely to skip? Because actually, you need to be doing at least something to all five, defining your marketing objectives, identifying decisional capability gaps, assessing your AI suitability to plug those gaps, setting governance and boundaries, and then piloting, measuring, and refining. Which one will you most likely skip if you were under pressure? Because I want you to do all five of those, because that is an ultimate kind of strategic framework for you to make this thing happen. And then moving beyond that to things that really make a big difference, and moving beyond activity in itself, really, to things that will actually reflect, I guess, a little bit more of a mature stance in your organization for adopting AI. If you're doing any of these things, then you are probably, I would say, in the top 0.1% of marketers who are not yet really doing this stuff. Big opportunity here to get some competitive edge. There are four things I would say that are really, really key here to be thinking about in terms of decision quality. Can you find evidence where actually by using AI, you've made a better decision? Forecasting accuracy. I said how important that is if you're doing new projects or campaigns. Can you find some evidence where actually you were able to forecast and it played out a little bit more accurately? I'm not looking at perfection, but we're looking at certainly big improvements here. And also outcome improvement. That's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Because if you think about that one, it's a win-win. This is the value that we're talking about. And also, have you got evidence of risk reduction where you've actually taken some risk out of play because you've done some of the things we've been talking about here? It's getting really interesting here, isn't it? If ROI is your target, if growth is your target, if being more efficient is your target, then there's opportunities in here using AI to strategically fix some of those things, as well as being aware of some of the common pitfalls, treating AI as a quick fix. This is about embedding it for the long term. Over centralizing control as well. This has got to be playing out in everybody's remit, everybody, and I do mean everybody within the team. If you've got third parties, agencies, designers, whatever, then they need to be part of this too. Another one is ignoring cultural and behavioral change. Crucial, absolutely crucial, particularly in organizations that are slightly resistant to change. They like to kind of just keep the status quo. They just like it, we've always done it like this. Mentioned that before, didn't I? Yeah, well, they're going to struggle a little bit with this one. So we've got to, be very, very mindful that some cultures, some organizations, some teams, and some individuals would much rather we didn't go down this track. So that is a pitfall. That is a potential pitfall you could fall into. An AI strategy is as much organizational as it is technical. And that's something most people don't think about. They think AI strategy is all about the tools and all about the delivery. But a lot of this is actually about people talking, about people's acceptance of change, about people moving to this brave new world. And the upside is, as we've already seen, huge potentially. But think about this reflective question. Which of these pitfalls feels most relevant to your organization? The quick fix, the over centralizing of control, ignoring cultural and behavioral change. It's an interesting one, isn't it? There's going to be something in here which is not going to make this completely flowy for you. And that's the thing then that you need to get some support for or talk to others, see others who may well have been just a few steps ahead of you. And what did they do? That would be interesting, wouldn't it? So again, collaboration is key as you're doing this kind of strategic thinking. So by now, if you've been answering any of these reflective questions, you should have one priority objective, one high value AI use case, one governance need, and one capability gap. And then this is going to become the foundation of your AI roadmap. And so I'd like you to just think, now we're rounding this off now because you've got some areas now you can focus on. And if you've got to press pause and go back and listen to this again, great. Not a problem at all. You've got a framework here and some ideas that are going to enable you to translate this for you. That's the key here. So think about what is the single most valuable AI supported decision you want marketing to make better? That's a big one, isn't it? Which one? If you could only do one thing, because this is going to really focus, laser sharp focus your mind in terms of getting best value from this stuff. What's the single most valuable AI supported decision you want marketing to make better? If you think about that one, that could be where this golden nugget of AI is going to lie. So, a final reflection or some final thoughts just to round this off and to let you free with your questions and you get some deeper answers and go and really kind of think about this is AI doesn't replace marketing strategy. It exposes whether one truly exists. So, what I'm encouraging you to do and become a strategic marketer with AI embedded is to see more clearly, decide more confidently, and act more responsibly because strategic marketers are using AI to do those things, to see more clearly, to decide more confidently with evidence, and to act more responsibly overall in their professional work. So, the final reflective question to round this all off then is what is the first strategic conversation about AI that you're going to initiate after this session?